Jack mentioned BBC Derby, so tomorrow you need to win by at least 4 goals, which you haven't done so far this season, and you're up against the best defensive, the team with the best defensive record in the league. How big a challenge is it going to be, and how do you plan to give yourself the best chance?
Well, without giving too much away, I think that defensively they have been good all season, as you say. But from my perspective, we have a lot of creative and talented players that are yet to hit their peak this season, and I feel that with confidence and the self-belief that they've shown in the last 8, 9, 10 days worth of training, and the way that we intend to go about the game, and the way that we intend to exploit their weaknesses, it could be a good day for us if we have the right attitude and we apply ourselves.
Liam, could you give us a thumbnail sketch of what the situation is, what you need to do to get promoted?
Well, essentially, it's all about tomorrow. We have to win. We can be caught by 2 teams that have got 2 games in hand on us. Tomorrow will be our final league game. So it's all on us, really. We win. We're promoted. The backstory to it is that if we win, we can't be caught by teams chasing us, and if we win, then we are promoted through the first team, whoever finishes first, not being able to go, because for whatever reason in books they do this head-to-head thing, unlike every other level of football, and what happens is that you can only have so many teams from one establishment, university in the same top 2 divisions. So don't quote me on that, but it's something like that. But to be quite honest, I don't care about the ins and outs. I'm only interested about tomorrow and what we do and how we go about it, and winning the game and doing it well. Is
it that if Loughborough have got a team in the top division, so they can't have a second team in?
Something along those lines. But if we win tomorrow, we both finish on 21 points, and I might just give their manager a ring and say, "Shall we find out who's the best?" And see if we can have just one game, one off game, who's the best, and let's see who it is.
Yes.
Ella Smith on Radio Derby. You speak about the attitude and making sure you get that right going into tomorrow's fixture.
Yeah.
And obviously, with so much on the line, it's so important that the guys go in with a good mindset. And how do you keep them level-headed? Because obviously, I think when there's so much on the line, it's easy to lose your head a little bit or lose composure in moments, and that can obviously be costly.
Yeah. It's how you prepare and how you talk every day. The communication between myself, the staff, the players, talking about what's really important. I said to them only this morning after we finished training that, they will win the game. How they go about their business will dictate whether they win the game or they don't. But a lot of it is positive communication. It's just enabling them to believe that they can do achieve the task that's in hand and play to their maximum. And we're going to have to do that tomorrow. But everything is every day. We don't really look too far past. So if it's a Monday, we don't go too far past Monday. Then we get to Tuesday, we try to be better than we were yesterday. And it's really as simple as that, really. And then we get to game day, and then the hope is it all sort of comes together, or at least most of it.
Yes, got a question about that.
Scott Marnock, Sky Sports. Is there anything that you will need to do tactically extra to prepare for this big game? Obviously, like anything different from a normal league game that was leading up to this point?
No, not really. We're aware of their strengths and weaknesses, but I am a big believer that if we play to our maximum, I'm near as damn it, we can cause havoc, to be honest, against any team. And I feel that that's exactly what we intend to do. So we won't be doing anything much different. There may be a few surprises in the team selection, but aside from that, we won't be changing a vast amount.
Yes.
Spiro Pasco from Sky Sports. Liam, how are your players feeling going into tomorrow's match? Are they calm? Are they feeling great mentally and physically? How are they feeling just overall? And how is the mood as well in the camp?
I think generally they're very happy. You can see immediately by the smile on my face, I'm quite happy that they're happy, and I suspect they're very, very happy that I'm happy. So I think the mood in the camp is pretty good, very good in fact. Yesterday was probably our best training session all season. And yeah, we're all very happy. I think the thing that needs to be understood is that we're genuinely really looking forward to playing tomorrow. And if we could play probably the next 30 minutes, we'd be out there on the pitch warming up, ready to get rocking and rolling. So we can't really wait, if that answers your question. Thank you.
Any more questions? Yeah, I've got one.
Callum Sill from Sky Sports. So how, obviously there's a lot of pressure on the players, but as a manager you have pressures yourself. How are you handling that?
Well, I've been around a long time and I've been in a lot of different environments. From a professional club first team environment down to working in youth football and academy football. So I wouldn't describe this as a walk in the park, but I'm pretty certain I know exactly what I'm doing, which gives me confidence, which then gives the players confidence, and collectively we can go into tomorrow's game happy, knowing exactly what the task in hand is and how to overcome any obstacles, problem solve, and make sure that we are on the front foot, ready to win the game.
Yeah, next question. Yeah.
Max Stairs, Derbyshire Telegraph. Obviously you just mentioned that you're really excited to play football. How important is that excitement going into the game? Because obviously it's important for players to enjoy themselves when they're playing, but it's such a big game. Surely that maybe the enjoyment might alleviate some pressures. Do you think that's an advantage going into the game?
Just say the last part again.
So maybe that sense of enjoyment might alleviate some pressures off the players if they're going into the game with a good mindset. So do you think that's going to affect you in a positive way?
I think it'll add to us really, the excitement. I think that yes, of course we're going to have to be composed and we're going to have to control moments. But it's a football match, and I suppose there is a lot riding on it. But as I said before, it's about your preparation going into it, and we've trained today, we've trained this morning. You obviously get to speak to the players after we finished here, but they'll tell you that they're excited, they'll tell you that they know that they've got to manage moments in games and they've got to stay composed. But I think if they go out and they enjoy it, which is exactly what we intend to do, then win, lose or draw, at the end of it, I think that Oxford will be turning around and saying they are by far the best team in the league.
Any more questions? Yeah.
After the last game, it's fair to say you were somewhat scathing, very angry with the overall performance despite the result against Warwick. Is it a mentality change you're looking for, or is it more on the pitch going into this one?
I think frustrated is probably more of an accurate description, because when you know what your players are capable of, you have expectations of them to achieve that more often than not, and I don't think that was a true reflection of them or us. As I said at the time, the difficulty was sometimes you play teams and you play the level that you're playing, which unfortunately means that sometimes it's like Manchester City playing Leyton Orient in the FA Cup. They're going to persist to try and do the things that Pep Guardiola's asking of them, But do they do it as well as if they're playing against Liverpool? No. And that was the situation that we found ourselves in. Yes, a change in mindset, but that's kind of what we've been not working on, but trying to cultivate over the last sort of 8, 9, 10 days, and trying to enable the players to be the best version of themselves. And then, like I say, we move on to the next day, and the next day, and guess what? Tomorrow's match day. I'm just looking forward to seeing them boys go and play football and be the best version of themselves. So I think a change in mindset, yes, but I understand the reasons as to why we were like that. But I think more is demanded.
We've got one at the back there.
His origin is William, Sky Sports. Knowing the opposition and their quality, how do you, so obviously it's a very big game, so how do you go into this game and manage your tactical setup in certain moments of the game where it may be challenging or maybe get into the final minutes and it's still very tight? How do you just get that extra 1% of your opposition?
Well, I think we've scored in the last minute of 2 or 3 games this season. And that in itself shows you the belief that's within the group. Tactically, as a coach or a manager, you're looking and you're seeing maybe 3 or 4 pictures for every moment that's happening in games, and you're planning forward and you're retrospectively thinking about things that could change. I think a lot of it's about having the experience to follow your gut instinct. And that's exactly what I always do, so that's exactly what I will do. The players are aware of that, that's how we operate. There'll be no rash decisions tomorrow. There'll be a thoughtful process to everything that we do, but it's all planned from minute 1 to minute 90 odd, so if they come up with something vastly different, I'll be very surprised.
Yeah, we've got a question.
Jack Rinken, Radio Derby. When you speak at the union seminars and lectures about sort of coaching and developing and working with players, you speak on sort of the journey that you go on with them in the process. And obviously now it's the last game of the season. How have you felt this group of players have bought into the journey with you, and do you feel they've really sort of bought into what you wanted them to do and how you wanted them to play and things like that?
Yeah, I think we're all on the same page, and we're all a family really, within Pro Chance, but also within the university's first team, who obviously we represent. I think that's the key thing really. We're somewhat of a family, so yeah. We're all, tomorrow you'll see the players stick together. You'll see us stick together as a collective unit. Obviously, I will have to manage players and manage their thought processes and their expectations of things that are happening during the game, but yeah, it's just one big family. So they're bought into it.
Just go right in the corner. Do you have an ask question?
Yeah, why?
No, there's one behind you.
Cameron at BBC Derby. Obviously, the result tomorrow will have a defining impact on the season. However, regardless of the result, what are your thoughts on the season?
Well, I think if we look at it in a wider context from where men's football at the university was and where it's heading, I think it's been incredibly positive. I think the fact that we are challenging across multiple teams and changing the culture across certainly men's football is very, very important. It's something that is taking time. It'll take a little bit more time, which then impacts on the first team, and the first team impacts on the culture within the rest of the football club. So I think it's been an incredibly positive season so far, and I think we will continue to win, lose or draw tomorrow. I think the fact that we are in a position that we are speaks volumes of the changes that have taken place and how we're looking to try and operate and move forward.
Do you want to ask your question now?
Liam, what are you expecting from the opposition tactically? How do you expect them to play? Do you expect them to be defensive or play on the front foot?
I feel that they will come to try and win the game, and I feel that they will come to try and get the ball into their better players and do that very quickly. But I don't feel that they can win, lose or draw. I keep saying the same thing, but win, lose or draw. I don't think they have got anything if our players are at their maximum that we can't solve.
Max Des, Derbyshire Telegraph. You mentioned about this family feeling that you've got within the club, and I just wanted to know how important is that family aspect to you in your squad dynamic, and do you think that that mentality has aided you through some of the darker or harder times this season?
Well, I think it has. I think I gave an example earlier that we've scored maybe 2 or 3 last-minute goals, and that shows belief. That shows belief in each other. That shows a character within the group that they're willing to go as far as is necessary for each other. Not necessarily for me, but for each other. But then when you open it out from our analysts to our sports therapists to our to you guys, you know, you're now becoming a little bit part of the family. So we are very content in the fact that we're there for each other, and we will be again tomorrow.
Any more questions? Yeah, we've got another one.
Jack Lincoln, Radio Derby. Obviously, you mentioned about the last-minute winners. Is that obviously you probably like to win the game in normal time anyway? But it must be a great feeling as a manager to know that your players have the courage to keep going till the end, and they've got that in them to sort of dig themselves out if they need to with a late winner or an equaliser. Must be really good for you.
Yeah. We don't know how tomorrow's going to go, do we? We can plan and we can prepare and we can do everything, but we don't know exactly how the game's going to develop and how it's going to pan out. But what we do know is what we can control. So the players' character and how they go about the tasks that they're given, the decisions that they make during the course of the game will be massively important. But yeah, I'm looking forward to a good day.
Yeah, you in the centre.
Callum Silver, Sky Sports. I just wanted to ask, regarding that it's a home fixture, how important do you think the fans will be? Obviously they'll be behind your back. How important do you think they'll be in this fixture?
Well, it's different from being in a stadium environment, number one. Number two, we hope that the whole university and Team Derby and all of the university, all 16,000 students at some point will come and watch this team play football. I think from my perspective, I think for tomorrow, it's about having as many people there watching in the right way, the right manner, the right spirit, because they might just give us that 1%.
Yeah, anyone? Yes?
Sorry, Sky Sports. Is there any injuries in your squad, or is your squad fully fit at the moment?
No, there's no injuries. Not at all. We trained this morning. Everybody's very happy. 6 and 7 are going to have massages this afternoon, but that's just for well-being purposes more than anything else. And then early to bed, plenty of carbs, load up the night before, hydration, and then into tomorrow morning.
Still, Sky Sports, tomorrow is your final game of the season, so what would you say has been your best performance so far and the best moment of the season going into tomorrow's match before you play tomorrow?
Tomorrow's going to be the best match of the season, and we haven't reached our maximum yet. The players know it, I know it, so it's all eyes on tomorrow and putting in the performance that we've been wanting to put in all season.
Any more questions? No, we'll do it.
You spoke about completing
Well, I think anybody at any level will tell you that winning games is awfully helpful. But I go back to what I said previously about the day-to-day. So it's encouraging the players, enabling the players to have the right environment, a positive environment that then can spread across multiple levels within those that we can affect. So within the university, within ProChance, and the hope is that by developing the individual's mindset, we could become a better collective, which hopefully we'll see tomorrow. But in a wider context, I think for me it's really important that we have a positive effect on the whole men's football club and the wider university, which I would genuinely believe we are.
Pete, do you want to ask a question?
Pete Lansley, Sun Sport. After this, you've got varsity, obviously, and then is it true you're going to be playing against some pro teams? And if so, what's the purpose of that?
So I think we'll get through tomorrow, and then we will probably play another couple of university-type friendlies, but against the very, very top of the unit. What that will show us is it'll show us the direction in which we're heading and what we need to do over the next few months. In terms of player recruitment, in terms of cultivating the culture within men's football, and things that need to be changed in order to be able to compete. Then from there, playing a couple of other universities at the higher end, we'll then play a couple of professional clubs. And the purpose really is talent identification for the professional clubs. So that could be potentially at first team level against a League 1, League 2 club. Could be against a Championship or Premier League under 23s. But it's then to put the players in the shop window, which they have been all along. But the easiest way to showcase that a player can play at our level is to put them up against players who are currently playing that level. And that's the purpose, Peter.
Mm-hmm. And obviously a lot of these players, we've all seen the talent on the pitch, and a lot of them have come from pro clubs. Can you tell us a little bit about your ethos with ProChance and the sort of possibility to bounce back up into the pro game?
Well, I mean, there's never a guarantee that an individual is going to bounce back up into professional football, but when a player is either released or is trying to find their way to or into the professional game, they need three things really. They need the correct environment, they need a supportive infrastructure, and they need genuine people that can do that can open doors for those players. It'll be the same for lots and lots of people, just in different capacities where they need a door opening for them in order to make that leap forward. And that's essentially the ethos of ProChance really. Those are the three things that we do. We have excellent facilities. We have the luxury of playing at St George's Park, which is England's training ground, as and when required. We have all the facilities here at the University of Derby. We have a multidisciplinary staff force in analysis, sports therapy, psychology. So we operate very much like a professional football club, but obviously we aren't. But it engineers the ability for players to develop every day. And then of course off the pitch, the vast majority of the players study a very unique qualification which in its basic form is really about self-discovery and finding out what they would want to do with their lives while learning about themselves. After football, they don't make it, what will they do, how will they go about it? So yeah, so it's a very unique project that we've got here, but it's one that's incredibly exciting for everybody involved. Incredibly exciting, and with that come high standards and high demands, as you say. You've been involved at I'm Sun Sport, remember? Yeah. You've been involved at professional level yourself. Yes. So is there ever a danger of
over-exertion with these players who are also doing their studies. And after the last game, when you were so cross, there was, a source tells me that you know, some of the players felt they were overrun in the build-up to the game, and therefore they were simply tired when it came to the match. What would your response be to those accusations?
I think I can understand why the players would think that. But we have two hats to wear most of the time. One is that we are trying to enable them to get to a certain level. So when we look at the GPS data and the distances and the sprint distances and the heat maps, we look and we know what they've done. So we know whether it's too much, too little, or just about right. And yes, we wanted to win the game in the last game that we played. Of course we did. But also we've got to manage and balance that between engineering their longer term ambitions and getting them to a certain level of endurance, fitness and so on, as well as winning games.
So you wouldn't say you damaged team relations by running them into the ground before the last game?
I don't think running them into the ground would cut it. They played, on the Monday night they played a game for 110 minutes. Not every player played more than 60 minutes. Some players played more than others, granted. But in terms of running them into the ground, they should be able to play 2 games in 3 or 4 days. And if they can, then we need to work with them to get to be able to do that. Because if they're going to be in the National League, League 2, League 1, Championship, because the National League is as hectic as the Championship, they're going to be playing every 3 days.
And do you think through this season and through these demands you've actually managed to raise standards for the University of Derby's football team?
I believe that the standards throughout the whole men's football club, and I think perhaps we're starting to have a wider effect on other sports in terms of best practice. I feel that the standards that have been brought here have elevated everything. And that's something that we can all be really proud of, because it's not just me, it's a huge team effort from Simon, Jordan, lecturers, our wider team in terms of the guys that do analysis, the girls that do psychology, and so on and so on and so on. It's something that is coming together, and it's something that I think we're creating a family. We've got a family in the first team. We're trying to lay those principles down to the rest of the men's football club. We're trying to engineer a better culture, better habits, better behaviour, and it's coming together.
Okay. Any more final question?
Spirit of Sky Sports, you said that the standards have increased, but after this season, are you still looking to increase the standards even more for every team in the University of Derby, or are you happy where the standards are currently?
No, because I think you can always improve. It'll be just different things that we will need to improve. So, you know, across the board, we're looking at the cultural benefits that we can bring, the standards that we can raise. We need to continue to cultivate mindset of the wider football club and the reasons why you might want to play football for the University of Derby. And if you're fortunate enough, maybe that would be for Pro Chance. But next season, when we get to next season, or when we get to pre-season, which is apparently an unusual thing, to have a pre-season in the way that we would do it, because as I've articulated, we would operate exactly the same way as a professional football club would at first team level. So when we get to the planning for pre-season and periodising that, then we will look at the challenges that we face and how to overcome those as a team, so that we can then continue to develop a really positive culture within men's football and the wider university.
Have we got time? Yeah.
Not too much time.
Max says Derbyshire Telegraph. Obviously, you just mentioned about Pro Chance and its importance. how important do you think it is for an institution such as Pro Chance to be there for players that are released and give them opportunities if they're lucky enough to get one?
I think first and foremost, I think it's needed within the football industry. Okay? There are lots of clubs, organisations that make a lot of false promises within the football industry about come to us, do this, study this, do that, and we can get you to X, Y, and Z. The truth is that it's about the three things that I spoke about. The players need the right environment, they need challenging, they need the demands, but they need to have that support around them. Not because they've had a tough time, but that support then leads to opportunities. And I think that's what we do very, very differently by working with lots of professional clubs in order to engineer that interest so that players can not only represent the University of Derby, but then enjoy the experiences of playing at probably the highest level they may have played at and testing themselves against players that effectively they're going to try and replace. And there's only us in the country that do that. There's loads of these Mickey Mouse organisations that run around playing under 15s and under 16s, but telling all the players that they're playing the under 18s and under 19s. Seen it 1,000 times, it's just, yeah, but that's far from what we are.
Any more questions? Yeah, we've got one.
Jack Lincoln, Radio
Hi,
Derby. You speak about sort of like building a sort of family unit around the whole footballing setup here at Derby. Is there sort of an active sort of player pathway between the 5 men's teams? So there might be opportunities for players in the seconds to step up into the first team, or is it sort of Pro Chance is already set and then the rest sort of you can then move between them, but Pro Chance is sort of to itself?
I think it denied our cultural objectives if we went Pro Chance is Pro Chance and Will plays the first team and then see you later, because we wouldn't be achieving the objectives that we would like to. Well, tomorrow's a prime example. There are 6 players who don't study the qualification that I've spoken about, that came to the University of Derby to be university players and nothing more, but they're in the squad tomorrow. So there's a prime example of, I'm really just interested in good players and players who I feel that have got the potential to be more. What that more is, nobody really knows. So a lot of it's down to them and the 3 things that I've spoken about. But if you put those 2 together, then you've got a chance. And that's for any player within the university. They've just got to be good enough.
Anyone else? Yeah.
Scott Sky Sports. You speak about you like good players. So who is probably your best threat for tomorrow in terms of a player?
I'm not going to pick against 2 brothers, am I? I'm not going to say he's a better brother than that brother. Do you want me to answer the question or do you want to rephrase it? Because there's another way you could put it.
I don't know.
I'll answer the question. I think we've got, as I said at the very beginning, I think we've got a lot of threats that can pose them, a lot of danger. And I think the purpose of tomorrow for us is to let them go out, enjoy themselves, and yes, they've got to work hard. Yes, they've got to do the hard parts of the game. But we have lots of players across all different areas that can really go and express themselves tomorrow and cause them a lot of problems. So where that threat comes from, your guess is as good as mine, because we've got several that can do it.
Yeah, any more?
Spiro Pasco, Sky Sports. Leo, because tomorrow is your biggest game of the season, will you give your players any advice on how to handle the pressure and play without panicking?
They won't panic. As I've said to them this morning, if a mistake happens, a mistake happens. It won't be intentional. If you misplace a pass, don't worry about it. We've just got to concentrate entirely on the ball and what we do with and without the ball is going to dictate who wins the game. If they're better than us with and without the ball, they'll win it. And yeah, so from my point of view, they're calm. They'll be laughing and, well, you can hear them, they're laughing, joking, talking. They're not going to be too bothered. But if something does go wrong, then we'll obviously have to manage the situation as it develops.
Any more questions? Any organisation has not asked a question?